Hello. Hey, I'm Dan Scott, and in this video, we are going to design a mobile website. We'll use the software Figma, and on our little journey, I will introduce you to the design or user experience design process. We'll start by making the simple wireframe like this. I'll show you all the basic tools, and then we'll prototype it. And then from there, we'll end up by actually filling it out by making what's called a high fidelity version before the end of this video. First up, who is this video for? It's for you. As long as you are the person who really wants to learn UX design and Figma, but maybe either curious and haven't got started, or like I was, curious and scared to get started. It can be a little bit intimidating, both the UX world and Figma is a bit of software. So what I'll do in this video is we'll do a short little project together, learn the software, learn a little bit of the process to hopefully, unintimidate it for you and get you involved. Before we jump into software quickly, let's talk about what UX design is. I felt like it was quite this hard thing to understand when I got started. But once I kind of learned these kind of like three core parts, I found it clicked. I was like, that's why this is so good, okay? So the first one is not one of those steps, it's like getting a clear brief. And that's right for any creative project. Getting the brief right, figuring out who it's for is super important for any project, okay? So you do that first. From there though, what I find useful in considering UX is there is kind of three steps: assumptions, testing, and iteration. So you make some assumptions based on the brief and who it's for about what they might like, things that need to be there, things that might not need to be there, language you might use. So those are all under the term assumptions rather than things that you should do. Then you test those assumptions, okay? Get it in the hands of the people it's meant to be for. Not you, not your colleague, not your mum, not your girlfriend, the actual people it's meant to be for, okay? And get them to test it, okay? Whether you're sitting side by side with them, emailing it to them, okay? Doing A/B tests against a bigger group, but doing testing. And then, once you've done the testing, evaluate it and iterate on that one. So the iteration's that last point. So you go back to the beginning, basically, make new assumptions based on those testing, do testing, do you need to iterate again? Okay, so that was, for me, a really good process because it did a couple of things. Like I was trained as a graphic designer. I've worked a lot in web design and motion graphics and video editing, okay? And a lot of those jobs I was hired based on my experience, okay, and what I think should be right, okay, and what the client wanted. And together we kind of made something that we were like, that is perfect. No testing involved, because you can't test a lot of that stuff, okay? Whereas UX design is often used for web and app development, which is easily trackable. So instead of saying, like when I was a web designer, called myself a web designer, I would get the brief, make the stuff, and deliver it to the client, okay? There might be some A/B testing at some stage of some part of it, but it wasn't a clear part of the process. Whereas now as a UX designer, I will detach myself from being, I know everything that should be, right, because I'm the professional, that's why I've been hired. I am now the person who's looking forward to making some hypothesis, some assumptions, and then getting in the hands of users, and then being blown away by like how awesome I was or how terrible I thought, how far away from where I thought it was going to be and what it ends up becoming, okay? And learning loads along the way. It's super exciting. That's my key parts for UX design. So assumptions, test those assumptions, iterate on those assumptions, and eventually you come to a point where it's the best it can be for the people it's meant to be for. UX Design 101. Next up, what is Figma's role in this like UX design process? So it is rapid prototyping, okay? It is the design tool. What needs to be really clear is that it's not the actual maker of the app or website. So majority of times we're using Figma to design apps or websites. You can use it for all sorts, okay? But it is not the actual builder at the end. And we're gonna get something, we're gonna quickly do a wireframe, test that wireframe, then make it look on brand, right colors, images, okay? And get it to a point where it can be tested and actually feel like an actual app or an actual website. But it's just a mock-up of it, okay? It looks real, you can test it, that's the beauty of it, but it's not actually making the website or app. And that's a big thing where, you're like, well, why do you even have Figma if you have to then go and build it again afterwards? It's that rapid prototyping. Like however long this video is right now, I'm not sure how long it is, okay? But you know, that's how long it takes us. It's probably an hour and a half. How long it takes us to, you know, make something that's a wireframe, that's tested, and that actually looks on brand, and we can get sign off from both the potential users and the client. We can do that super fast. Imagine trying to build it in code, or you know, getting an app developer to actually build it based on the brief. Okay, it'd take a long time to build out, and when you do testing, we've got to change it all. Well, maybe we have to change the whole, you know, infrastructure or the framework that we're using. That's the long way of doing it. You can do it that way, but it's much quicker and much easier to use something like Figma to do this rapid prototyping. Get it in the hands of people, get it tested, get it signed off, and then hand it to an engineer, okay? And then they can go, all right, I know exactly what I need to make. I can go away, scurry away, find my dark corner and code away and come back with something that looks exactly like your mockup, because you've worked out all the pathways and user flows and, you know, problem spots and anything that people might get stuck. You fixed all that. They just need to copy that, and that's a lot faster process, okay? So that's what it is. You need to know that your job is Figma, rapid prototyping, but then afterwards, we need to build it in either code or in code or a framework or a template, however you're building your WAP. That's combining the web and app. I've had a lot of caffeine today. All right, so that's it. Cut. Okay, that meltdown there reminds me that I speak too fast, and I've had a lot of caffeine and not a lot of sleep. Thank you, kids. So you can slow me down. The cog's over here, isn't it? There's a settings there. You can do the speed down to like 0.75. I sound a little drunk, but I sound maybe a bit slower and maybe easier to understand. Okay, so do that. Next, I want to talk about the design brief that we're doing together. I'm giving you a brief, okay? So we are making a website, okay? It's going to be a mobile website. It is for a co-working space that is about to open. It's not open yet. Okay, they're still building out the shop. This is all fake. Okay, they're building out like the lighting and the seating and all that sort of stuff. But they also are starting marketing. Okay, so they need a website that basically just takes email addresses. So they're going to be trying to drum up promotions and get people hyped up about joining. They can't join yet. They haven't fixed the price, all that sort of stuff. But they want to get emails in so that they can email those people when they do get ready with prices and show people around. So it's basically just a simple microsite to capture email addresses. So that's what we're building. Who is it for? Okay, super important. It's often called the persona. Okay, who are we designing for? So I'm going to give you somebody for this one, so you've got an idea in your mind who you're designing for. Okay, so our ideal customer, I've written it down here, is a woman named Karen. Karen's in her 40s. She's married with kids. She works for a multinational company that is based in another country. So she needs somewhere to work from that's close to home, but that's not home, because a lot of us have tried that and that don't work. So yeah, she finds it hard to disconnect from work and family life. She's aware of what a co-working space is already, so that's good to know. She's just looking for her own professional space with a mixture of community. So that is who it's for. Now, it's really get clear on that persona before you get started on building anything, because if you try and build something for everybody, you end up building something for nobody, because there's just too many compromises and it becomes this nobody can see themselves at that co-working space. You know, it's very different if it was going to be like, young, hip, no kids, looking to party kind of vibe at a co-working space, which is plenty of them out there, okay? And then there's ones on the other side as well that are less community. It's more formal and you get to use the boardroom and look professional and there's leather stuff everywhere. So getting clear about who it's for, it's not always your responsibility as a UX designer, but you need to push back often with the client, get really clear who you're building it for, because sometimes they don't know either. But that's who we're building for, Karen. Let's get started. Is he still talking? We're gonna open up Figma ever? Next, promise. First up, I wanted this to be like a follow along, so you can actually open up Figma and play along. So I've created some exercise files. Okay, they're free to download. They're linked in the description. Go grab those. Go get Figma if you haven't already. Open it up and we'll get started. also there is a link to a shortcut sheet that I've made. Okay, so you can print that off while you're working and kind of, I'm going to mention shortcuts throughout it. Okay, you can have those, you can circle the ones that you like and try and remember them. So go get the exercise files, go get the shortcut sheet, open up Figma, and let's finally start building something, Dan. Okay. All right, first up, go to figma.com and sign up for an account. For this video, you don't need a paid account, you just need a free account. Awesome. If you're new, go through the welcome and find the new design file. If you're like me and you've opened it before, you can either hit this new design file or under drafts plus new design file. Doesn't matter, pick one of them. We'll end up here. There's going to be a bunch of things that try and help you do Figma. That's going to be my job though, so close those down. And we're going to start with something called a frame. Okay, frames have different purposes. What we're going to use it for is a frame of our mobile website. So we're going to click frame, and over here there's a bunch of templates. Okay, so we're going to start with a phone as our default. Okay, I'm just going to use iPhone 14. If you're in the future and we're using iPhone 27, use that. Okay, whatever it is, pick one of them, doesn't matter. Now I want 3 of them. Okay, so I've already got it selected. If you don't, you can just click on the name at the top here and go copy, paste, paste. So we've got 3 of them. Okay, and I want to name them. Okay, so this first one here, okay, you just double click the title at the top here. This one's going to be called homepage. This next one here is going to be called registration. And then confirmation, enter, nice. Now just the basic navigation, hold down spacebar, just hold it down, you get the little hand, click, hold, and drag around. Okay, and to zoom in, it's Command on a Mac, Control on a PC, okay, and hit plus. Plus to zoom in, minus to zoom out. Those are the basics. And one last handy shortcut before we move on, it is hold down Shift key on both Mac and PC and hit 1. And it just puts everything in there. Watch this, if I zoom in, and I get too far and I don't know where I'm at, Shift 1 shows me all my artboards, which is handy. If you do get lost, you're like, I can't remember all those. Remember there's a shortcut sheet to use, or see this little F, okay, the Figma F up here, click this, and it's got all that kind of normal stuff that you've got from, your desktop applications. You can find it here, view, there's all the stuff. There's all the shortcuts. Okay, so if you do get lost, click on that guy, and you'll find most of the stuff eventually. All right, boring navigation over. Okay, next up, let's add some text. That's the type tool up the top here. You can use T on your keyboard, it'll select it. There's 2 ways of adding text. You can click and draw a box. That way, good for body copy. That means when you're typing, it will break onto different lines, okay, different paragraphs. But what we want is just another way of doing it, okay, is using the same tool and just clicking once. And this will type on forever. That's what we want. We're gonna do it like a little mock logo. Okay, we're gonna use your own name. So my name's Dan. I'm gonna do Dan's co-working. Not sure if co-working should have a hyphen. I should check these things. Now I'm gonna select all the text, okay, and I'm going to pick 16 for the font, and the default in Figma for font type, okay, or font family is Inter. Interesting note, the person who designed that typeface works for Figma. There you go. Basically, whenever you hit enter, it goes back to this move tool, which is handy because I can click off in the background and then just kind of drag it up into this top left kind of logo position. All right, that is how to add text. And before we move on, we've got untitled. Okay, how do I know it's untitled? It says it up there in the tab. And just the cool thing about using something like this browser-based application is that you don't really need to save it. I end up with lots of untitled documents. Don't tell anyone, because they just save constantly because you're kind of working on a cloud-based version. It's always backed up online, even if your computer crashes. But we'll save it because otherwise it gets confusing. Now, you'll notice that I can see the word untitled here and I can click on it to change it. So I'm gonna call it Dan's Co-working. Good to give it like a version number. Okay, I often give it a date number as well. So I'll go, I'm starting this in December. Okay, and I'll put in the year. Okay, and that's how I kind of know maybe, where I'm at with this one. I'm just going to use V1 in this case. Now, if you can't see that, it's because you've got the text selected. See that? Goes away. These are helpful, but not right now because I want to save it. So let's click off in this gray area, the pasteboard here. All right, saving done. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make something called a component. I'm going to zoom in. Who remembers what the shortcut was? Command plus? You got it. Control plus if you're on a PC. How do I zoom around the place? Because I can't see it. It's up there somewhere. That's right. Hold down spacebar. Click, hold, drag. Click, hold, drag, and kind of row your way up here. Okay, I'm in close. I'm not sure why. But I want to turn this into a component. What is a component? It's anything that you want to reuse. Okay, this logo is going to be on lots of different artboards. Okay, we've got, well, they call them frames here in Figma. Okay, so I've got 3 frames. You might end up with 10 frames. 100 frames is not uncommon if you're developing, say, an app or a more complex website. Okay, but anything that's going to be reused, you don't want to be copying and pasting it on every page, because if you have to update one, you're going to have to go and update them all. Pain in the butt. So what we do is we have it selected with our selection tool, and then see this little button here? Okay, create component. Click on that. Boop. Add your own sound effect. And nothing really happens, okay, except that over here, I'm on layers, I'm on my home page. Inside of home page, there's this thing called Dan's co-working. See that little icon there? It means it's component, okay? Components live on their artboard, like we have it here, but it's also under your assets. It means later on, you can go through and say, actually, I'm on this other page here and I need the logo again, and I can drag it off. Okay, and they are connected. Watch this. If I update Dan's logo over here, our Dan's co-working, because we're like, it's one word, Dan. I don't think it is. I have no idea. Again, should check. Can you see? This updates. So components are handy while you're working. Great for logos. Think footers, check marks, buttons, everything should be a component because we're going to use them loads and loads and loads. And they become shareable with other people on your team. There you go. Now, my one under my assets panel is called Dan's co-working. It's probably not the name I want. I just want to call it logo. I'm going to click it. Okay, and over here we can rename it. So instead of called Dan's logo or Dan's co-working, I'm just going to call it logo. There you go. You, my friend, have made your first component. Hides in the assets panel, and you can still see them here on our layers panel. Could you zoom out to see it all, please? Ooh, do you remember what it is? What's the shortcut? I want to see all my artboards. Shift 1. You got it. Both Mac and PC. All right, back to real life me. I figured I'd jump in to talk to you in real life to basically beg for a like and subscribe. Okay, that's what I do. What does like and subscribe do? It really helps me. I don't think it does, but it's a very good vanity metric. And I look at it and I'm like, people like it. And they really like it, they subscribe. Okay, so if you like it, like and subscribe. Also know that this is kind of like a mini course for Figma. I've got a full course, okay, a full essentials course is more complete. And there is an essentials and an advanced Figma course as well. There'll be links to those full courses in the description. But for now, begging over, get back to the computer. Let's jump back into the next bit. Okay, next up, we're going to put in an image placeholder. When we're designing this wireframe, okay, so a wireframe is just a simple version that we can test really quickly. It has no images, has no good fonts, no good colors, no brand guidelines are applied to it. It's just really simple, just rudimentary. That's why they call it a wireframe. So we're not going to actually put in images. We're just going to put in a rectangle as an image placeholder so that when we're testing the flow, okay, of what people are doing rather than getting caught up in conversations about image. Okay, oh, that's the wrong graphic, or that's not the right one, or why we're using this. For those initial tests, you want to leave all of that out. So image placeholder is just a rectangle. There it is there. Click, hold, drag out some sort of random image. Okay, and that is our image placeholder. Some people put lines. Okay, grab the line tool. So under here, under rectangle, there's a line, and some people like to put lines either side. Okay, that is the image placeholder. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to use little icons, and that's what we're going to do in ours. We'll get those in a bit. But while we're here, let's get this some basic styling. So radius, okay, so I've got it selected here. If I hover over it, can you see the little dots? I can click and drag those, okay? Fun fact, if you hold down Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC, you can do one at a time. We don't want to do that. Okay, with it selected, you can either drag those or you can just type it in over here. I want 10. Thank you very much. Okay, and what I want you to do over here is pick a fill color, any color, just one though, for the whole wireframe. Okay, it can be anything except for this color. That's hideous. Okay, pick one color because again, you do not want, try not to even pick the brand color because you do not want to get into, at this stage, conversations about color. That's for the high fidelity or kind of like hi-fi version. Okay, so click, drag it around. So yeah, you drag the hue to find the kind of right sort of zone that you want it to be in. I'm picking a greeny teal color, and then you drag in here how dark, light, saturated, unsaturated it is. Okay, so find something and hit enter. And that stays open. Hit the cross. Let's give it a stroke. Okay, the line around the outside, so I'm gonna hit plus. I'm gonna leave it 3, okay, 3 pixels for the width, okay, or 3 points. And in terms of the color, I'm just gonna, you can see there's no like black or white option. Basically what you do is you just grab this little dot. So instead of being red, you just go zoop, and you kind of drag it past over here and then pick something that's gray. Anything in here has 0 color. So it doesn't matter whether you're here, it's the same gray. Okay, so I'm gonna pick, I don't know, some kind of gray. And hit enter. and then the cross. Okay, so just at the cross. All right, so we've drawn a rectangle. Let's add some type. So grab the type tool, T key on your keyboard. I'm going to click once in the middle, because again, I want this text to kind of keep going. I'm going to actually make this centered, so it goes from the center. And you'll notice that, well, there it is there. So I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to say opening in January. You do the same. Okay, I'm going to select it all, pick, we're not picking a font, we're leaving Inter because it's good, it's not going to offend anybody. I'm looking at you, Papyrus, okay? Inter, pick something like Open Sans or Roboto or Inter, just something that's not going to, again, drive conversation about what font we should be using. You can definitely play with the hierarchy, okay, of fonts. So in this case, we can use like a bold and make it a bit bigger. So make it these sizes for me, but try to stick to just one font for the moment. Okay, the cool thing about Figma is with the selection tool, which it always defaults to, if I click off in the background a couple of times, nothing selected. If I grab this and start dragging it, look at all the cool stuff that appears. Like, it's like, did you mean line up with this? No, this side. In the middle of the whole page, yes. Oh, so good. It's really handy to watch this. I can kind of move it and like, oh, look. It says, would you like it to be 14 pixels, like right in the middle? And you're like, yeah, that'd be perfect. It's not what I want right now, but middle of page, oh, it's so good. Automatic alignment is nice. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to draw a button. And again, there's no like create button. Okay, it is just like create a button using the rectangle tool. You're like, should be fancier, but it's not. Okay, and again, with my selection tool, which it defaulted to, I can kind of get it in the middle of my page by just dragging it around, and eventually it goes, hey, do you mean, oh, there, middle of the page. There is fancier options up the top here, okay, where you can line things up, but often you can just do it by dragging it now. Awesome. Now the next thing I want to show you is that we can go through here, and I want to make this consistent color. I'm not going to use gray and then green and then purple. So I'm going to select on this. I'm going to go to fill, and you'll see there document colors. Look at that. It's got my green in there. Great. And there's the gray that I use for the edge, so I can go through and do that. You could do that, like we're going to make so many elements in, say, an app or a web design that, man, that gets tedious. So I'm going to undo. I'll show you a cool trick for Figma is we'll select this because it's got everything we want. Rounded corners, thickness, color. Okay, so we go up to the little Figma option and go to File and go to Edit. Okay, and then down the bottom here is one called Copy Properties. You don't have to learn this shortcut, but that one's a handy one. Copy Properties, Paste Properties. Okay, so on mine, that hieroglyph there is Option Command Mac. And I'm guessing you'll have to look on PC. It is probably Alt Control C, but double check for me. So I'm going to go U, and I'm going to click on this one. And then I could go back, but I'm going to use a shortcut. Command Option V. Oh, look at that. Control Alt V, okay, on PC, probably. Okay, and it was just copy and paste. So you'll end up using that a lot just to get everything kind of styled the way you want. There is fancier ways of setting up proper styles and defaults and those sorts of things, but for the moment, perfect. All right, so now let's make this an official button, because at the moment it's just a rectangle shaped like a button. Okay, first of all, it needs some text. I'm going to hit the type tool. You can click inside things and start typing. Okay, I find it's easier just to click off on either this gray area or just somewhere where you know there's no other parts. Sometimes you can turn boxes into text boxes, and it's just easier to like do it over here and go, I'm going to type in register. Pick the right font size. 16, just so you know, is a really common font size that everyone can read. Accessibility issues are, there's no problem with the size 16. Up to you. I'm going to pick medium. I want them to be all caps. Okay, so text has this box here, but you can actually expand more. Okay, and there's a bunch of other text options in here, and I just want this one. Uppercase, okay, down the bottom here. Nice. I'm going to get it with my selection tool. Close it down. And just drag it into the right place. At the moment of kind of highlighting the text, I got to kind of click off. You see it changes a bit. Now that's easier to drag. And again, I can use my alignment tool. I can get it here, select both of them, align them. Okay, but what I want to do is, or actually what I do all the time is with that selection tool, if you just drag it close, let's zoom in and see the magic of Figma. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. So watch this. I can just drag it in here and look. Oh, do you mean halfway in between there? You're like, yeah, like right in the middle. Look at those crosshairs. Very easy to do, quite intuitive. So that's going to be my register button. Now, it's still not an official button until we select both of them. So with my selection tool, you can either shift click both of them or just drag a box around the two, and then we're going to make it a component. Remember, anything you're going to reuse, just make it a component, because we can update all of them. Imagine buttons, you want to change it. I don't know, your client comes back and says, actually 10 points not quite right. Can it be 9 point? And you're like, sure. And you have to find every single box and change it. Whereas if we make it a component, okay, we can change one and they all change. So I've made a component over here, my assets panel, there it is. Hey, I've got 2 components. I'm gonna change the name of it. Okay, let's call it button. Nice, welcome to the world, button. All right, let's zoom back out, remember shift 1, and we're out. Okay, I'm gonna make a what's called a UI card down here. So a UI card, or a card, UI is user interface. UX is like the design process. UX is more of an umbrella term covering lots of things, including like UX research, planning, deciding what the kind of customer journey is gonna be, what you want them to feel, how you want them to get there, as well as designing the elements on the page, these page furniture parts. These page furniture parts are UI, user interface. Okay, so we're doing UI design work right now as part of our role as a UX designer. What makes UX kind of bigger than UI is that there's a lot more, like for me, for us in this video, is going to be a lot of testing involved, okay, getting it in the hands of clients and then coming back and iterating. Whereas UI design is more just the actual mechanics of making this stuff, which we're doing. So there's UI. What is a card? UI card is like a reusable unit. I found a few for you. There they are. So I just picked a bunch of sites and they all have them. This is generally called your, what is it called? Your hero or your Jumbotron. Okay, this big kind of marketing message and image. Okay, then down here, let's have a look. I think they got some there. These are nice reusable things. They can make 100 of these and they'd all have the same sort of structure. Okay, icon, heading, so many words. Okay, let's have a look at a few other ones. HubSpot, okay, there you go. This is another one. You've seen these on kind of like pricing pages as well, like the, you know, the recommended, the free, the enterprise, okay? These are ones. Weirds me out that I've only got 5. I really want 6, fill this whole HubSpot, okay? But these are cards, okay? They look very different, but that's the generic term. One more, you know what I'm talking about. Here's another one. Not those. These, nice reusable. They can have these go on forever, okay? Image, there's some sort of like subtitle, title. Oh, the padding. I'm just gonna go around the internet judging other people, way better designers than me. I'm gonna go judge their work. Anyway, also the funniest, not the funniest, but like I feel like the About Us cards, if you have a person, they have to be in like a round circle. These ones animate, which is kind of cool. But you can see I just put our team for some local businesses, and like you have to put people in heads for some reason. You know, if you've got a person, a headshot, it has to be in a circle. There's another one, all people in circles. Okay, don't put images in circles, just headshots in circles. These are cards. Let's just make one, Dan. And for somebody who's very judgy about design, we're keeping it simple on purpose because it's a wireframe. All right, to do a card, they're going to be features of the co-working space. So I want my rectangle tool again. You'll get to a point you're like, man, I'm sick of going up here. Look, R key is rectangle. I know that one and use that one quite a bit. T for type tool, R for the rectangle tool. Can you see it jumping over here? V is always the move tool. I'm not sure why. Move. Okay, let's go with the R key and I want to drag out a rectangle. How do I drag it out so it's perfectly square? You're like, I know. That's right, you do know. It's hold shift. You got it. Go back, hold down shift and then drag it out. You get like a perfect rectangle, perfect height and matching width square. Get something like that. Now, depending on how far you've gone in your document, you might be able to just use your shortcut and paste the appearance, which is really cool. Okay, in my case, Command Option V or Control Option V on a PC. Okay, so if you haven't got it though and it doesn't work, go back up here, remember, and we can use the long way just for those people who need to go this way. Okay, copy properties, back down here, you, and paste properties. There you go. Let's grab the type tool, click once, and I'm gonna say bottomless coffee. Bottomless coffee. It remembers the last typing you did. Okay, so it's all uppercase for my case. I'm happy enough with that. Okay, bottomless coffee. I'm gonna pick something like, what fits in there? 22 doesn't, let's pick 20. All right, oh, okay, nice. So too big, 18. Move on, Dan, move on. All right, 18, that's it. It's the last one. And the next feature is probably, it could be my fastest, it could be my favorite feature in all of Figma. Okay, it's called Smart Selection. And what I want to do is, I want to do a couple of things. I want to make this not centered because it remembered I wanted centered for this text. This one actually going to be left aligned because I need a few of these and I want them to align to the left. Okay, so I've got these two selected. I've got them kind of lined up how I want. And I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to group them. Okay, so I know the shortcut is Command or Control G. I have no idea where the long version is. It's in here somewhere. You wait there. There it is, found it. Okay, sometimes you end up just knowing the shortcuts way better than where they are in here. Okay, so I went to U, Object, and Group. Okay, so I've grouped them together. So now when I click off, they're actually just one unit. Okay, so we've grouped them. What I want to do though is make a couple of versions of them. Okay, I want, there's going to be 3 different tiles. So I'm going to, you can copy and paste. There's a shortcut, a shorter way in Figma. This is not the super secret, awesome thing. Hit Control or Command D, and you can see it says duplicate. I'm going to do it again. So I've got 3 of them. You're like, where are they? They're all stacked on top of each other, which is good and bad, I guess. But now we know. So I'm going to drag one down. How far? About that sort of far. The next one though, I want to drag down. Like how far? Yeah, I want it to be the same. What if there was a way that it magically just went, oh, did you mean that? And you're like, yeah, exactly the distance, 21 pixels in between all of them. That is not the feature. Again, get to the feature, Dan. So while all those are great, duplicating, auto-aligning things, what I really love is selecting all 3 of these now, okay? And basically when I hover above them, can you see this little dot kind of appears and I can kind of hover above it? Watch the, actually, let's change the text. So I need to go into this one, and this one's going to be, I'll speed this through. Okay, so these are the features. Okay, I'm gonna select them all again. And now it makes more sense when we drag it. Watch this, see this pink dot here? And you're like, actually the client wants to move it around. And you're like, here we go. Look at that, I did nothing. I grouped them, that was it. And there's just magic power of smart selection. Okay, just select them all and you can adjust them. Okay, you need this one to be at the top, drag it around. Just snaps and remembers all those spacing. Now this is only like a 3 stack list. Imagine you're trying to do something and it's like search results on your app, okay, or product listings or something big and chunky. Okay, you can drag these things around super easy without making anything really. Just, all I did was group them. So they knew that they came along as a unit. Cool, huh? I love it. And it gets better. Watch this. See this, what's that line in the middle? Watch this. No way. Oh, look at that. It's the little pink line. Can be dragged to adjust them all. We're only doing 3 again, but imagine 1,000. Okay, not 1,000. Maybe imagine 100 of them all listed here that you've designed. You just need to increase the spacing a little bit. Do nothing. Just select them all. Go smart selection. Okay, let's add our little input field. So when people hit I want to register, it's going to go to our registration page, and we're going to put in an input field, which is just like a text box that people can type in. And if you thought this was cool with smart selection, and you can just readjust them, input fields are way less fun. You've just made an input field, okay? Like the placeholder image, input fields are just like representing an input field. If Figma can't actually make one that a user can type into, okay? You can go further, something like Protopie or something like that can actually make some of the more mechanics, but you can get the feel for everything. And yeah, so input field here is just gonna be filled with white. It's gonna have a stroke of 1. I'm gonna pick a color that is some sort of gray. Might match the gray that we were using for the stroke around these other boxes here. And you, my friend, have just made an input field. Okay, to make it easy, either add a label explaining maybe this is the email address. I like the hinting, you know, where you type in email and it's kind of grayed out inside of it. Okay, so I'm going to use 12, and I'm going to make sure it's in the middle by just dragging it around. Color-wise, I'm going to pick that same gray. Okay, and people can type over that. Sometimes you put sample at website.com, you know, just so people know where to fill it in. We're gonna have a bit of text at the top. I'm gonna borrow this. So I'm gonna copy and paste it. You can use Command D. You ready for one more shortcut? Hold down the Option key on the Mac, Alt key on the PC before you drag it. You see, now I click, hold, drag, and it just makes a copy as you're dragging it. Lots of ways of doing the same thing. That's okay. So we're gonna be, this one's gonna be, let me know. Let me know. Okay, they enter their email address, and then they hit the submit button. Next, we want a button, the submit button. Now, hey, remember we've got that in our assets panel here. Look, we've got that button that we made. Look, we can drag out another one of it. Okay, it doesn't really matter whether you drag it officially out of the assets panel or this one here was the component, considered the main component, the first one we made. I can duplicate it using my Command D. I have 2 of them, okay, or Alt dragging or Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC. Okay, either way, what we've done here now is let's go back to a layers panel. I want to describe just a tiny bit about our components. So this one here is the first one I made. Is it? I got a couple of each other. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Okay, now it does. Command D is that, or Control D on PC is that you end up with 2 of them right at the top of each other. And like me, you might get confused. Okay, the difference between these 2. So main component, this is called an instance of a component. Why is this important? Main components, the difference visually, can you see this in my layers panel? It's got that kind of icon here that we saw earlier. That's the icon for main component. Click on this other one up here in our registration frame. It has got an empty diamond, okay? That is an instance of this, okay? Why is that important? It means that I can adjust these instances. We kind of looked at it earlier, but I want to make it clear. So I want this button. They're not going to all say register. I want this one to say submit, okay? So that's really nice. The cool thing about it is that there's still controlled, okay? This main one, if I make changes here, so if I click on this and decide to pick a new background color, can you see? I can control all of them on my huge big, Figma, loads of frames everywhere, lots of different pages, mobile, desktop layouts, app layouts. I can control by updating this main one, okay, and it flows through all of them. But I can do something called an override, okay, which means I can update the text on this one. Okay, let's make another one. Okay, another instance of the main, okay. And I can do a different one on here. I can say, actually, let's change this one to a fill of white. And yeah, just a fill of white, okay? So I can do little changes, they're called overrides, overriding this main one, but I can still make big changes, like, look at this, hey! Okay, so main component, instances of that main component, and I have these overrides. You can go into them and say, actually, I wanna get it back to where it was. So click on it, it's an instance of button, there's this little option here, okay, and I can just go say, reset it back to normal, please. Phew. Okay, and in this case, what do I wanna do? I'm gonna go back into here, I'm gonna go you back to that main color I've got. And I'm happy for that just to be submit. Other cool things is like, let's say we change the text. Let's say we want this now to be bold. Can you see that flows through? If you change anything on these instances, it will keep them. But anything you don't change and you adjust here on the main will flow through. It's super awesome. I think any sort of navigation option, arrows, buttons, menu items, cards. We didn't turn ours into a component. We totally could have and should have, because we can update one, they all update. At the moment, they're all just separate groups. But if I went back in time, okay, instead of just grouping them, I'd make them a component. So that when I do update, because at the moment, if I update this one, can you see it's all on its own. But now we know the power of components, where there is a main component and an instance. I would do that. I'd turn it into a component rather than grouping it. There you go. All right, for now, let's just throw a bit of text here on this last page here, our confirmation page, just to say, thanks. Thanks. We'll keep you. You can watch me type, hang on. All right, run into a problem where I wanted to break onto two lines. I could fake it, just put a return in, okay? I won't tell anybody if you won't tell anyone. More officially, you can over here. Remember I said you click once, you get the box that goes on forever. And if you click and drag, you get a box with edges and it breaks. Okay, you can transform it. Watch this. If I click off, kind of have it selected here, watch this. That's my forever going on auto width box. There's this one, which is auto height, okay? It just means now, if I change it to that and I resize it, can you see it actually has boundaries that it can snap onto different lines, or just put an enter in, I won't tell. All right, next thing I want to do is just paste in place is a really handy one. It's kind of simple, but super handy. Earlier on in the class, I just made that one by copying and pasting it or alt dragging it. And you can kind of get it to how you want. You're like, okay. And it's really easy though, is when you do design on one artboard or one frame, you want it on each of them. Okay, is to select it. Okay, I'm just use my regular old copy. So Command C on a Mac, Control C on a PC, just the regular old one. And then I can click on this one and the other 100 artboards that I've got and just hit paste, that same shortcut that we know and love, Command V, Control V. Can you see it puts it exactly on the artboard where it was on this first one? Super handy when you've like updated the nav and you just want to like flow through all of Did you hear that? I said flow through and I waved my arm around and then almost knocked my plant off my desk. Anyway, so where was I? Okay, paste in place. Great for footers and anything that's like on every single page. A background graphic that you want on all of them. You just copy it off the first one, select all the titles up here. I'm holding Shift to select more than one and you can paste them. Let's do it with this. Let's pretend this was the footer. Okay, you, and paste. Powerful, simple, awesome. All right, Shift 1. And let's talk about using the drawing tools in Figma. We're not, this is a mini course, so I don't want to go into like all the detail. If you do want to go into all the detail, I've got a Figma Essentials course, which is a nice big course and that covers everything in Figma and a lot more detail. There's a link for that in the description. But for now, there'll be a lot of people transitioning, like you can draw rectangles and shapes. I'm not going to cover all of these. The pen tool, if you've never used it before, is kind of out of the scope of this mini course as well, but you can draw stuff. You can draw just fine in Figma. A lot of people, maybe not you, maybe you, okay, will have skills in other software like Adobe Illustrator. It'd be pretty common to, especially for me, to flick between Figma and Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator, here it is, okay, is a vector drawing program, okay? Its only job in the world is to draw stuff. So the tools in here are amazing. Figma does most of the basics, mostly fine, okay? Whereas Illustrator does everything, it's beautiful. So I wanna show you how these guys interact, and it's pretty easy. Let's say I need this. This is my image placeholder icon, okay, that I like to use. So it's in here, it's vector, I can do cool stuff in it in Illustrator, but how do I get it into Figma? Oh, it's tricky. You copy it, go back to Figma, and hit paste. There you go. I'm going to turn it into a symbol, component, just because I think that's important, okay? Because I'm probably going to use it multiple times, and if I want to change one, I can change them all. And there you go, I'm just going to use that. That is how you work with Illustrator. Copy and paste it. Let's look at something slightly more complicated. I'm doing this mainly to show off in Illustrator and get you to consider joining my Illustrator Essentials course. I like this guy. I'd like to do Illustrator with him. That's my goal. I also, the way I've widgeted this in is that I want to show you, like, if you've got something more complicated, Figma can generally deal with it, but if there are problems, I want to show you, if you're an Illustrator user, how to kind of conquer those so that you've got a nice flow. So I've got these two lines that I've drawn. Okay, and they've got an interesting stroke on them. I use the width tool to get it. Okay, and I want to blend these two together. So I'm going to select both of them. Okay, I'm in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, I'm going to go to Object. I'm going to go to Blend. I'm going to go to this one called Make. Okay, and if I do that, I get a big line in the middle. You're like, oh yeah, kind of cool, I guess. If you've tried to use the pen tool and try to match two lines, that is actually really handy, but it gets better. Okay, over here under Properties, there's one called Blend Options. I can say actually, instead of smooth color, let's go specified steps. How many steps? 5 looks good because I've already practiced. Click OK. Oh, look how cool that is. Lithograph kind of things. Nice. Now this will copy and paste across mostly, but if it does have problems, because it's like this weird blending thing and there's all these strokes going on, sometimes, just so if you're doing something complicated in Illustrator, the way to get around it, in this case, there's two things to do. Object, blend, there's this one called expand, and kind of look at the graphic, it just kind of goes bloop, instead of this like active thing that I can change, it's now just all these lines. And the other thing, I've got this fancy stroke on it. Sometimes those strokes, if they are super fancy, Figma will freak out. So what we can do is go Object, Path, and outline the stroke as well. Okay, so go Blend, and then expand it, and then Path, and outline stroke, and generally that will fix all problems if you are using this kind of Illustrator to Figma. So I can copy it now, and into Figma, and paste it. And the cool thing about it is, because it's vector, it continues being vector. I'm holding down Shift so it doesn't squish, okay? But look at this, and I'm not sure why I needed that big, but I've got it this size. If I double click it, oh look, the individual strokes. And if I double click it again, the edge, look at all these nice, beautiful paths that I can start messing around with. Okay, so the Illustrator Figma connection is strong. I'm gonna leave this in here because I'll use it a little bit later on for our high definition version, but we'll hide them over here. Not ready for you. All right, the next thing I wanna do is bring in the burger menu. Okay, let's zoom out. Now Shift 1's gonna kind of work now. It's showing me everything, including the stuff in the pasteboard. So yeah, if you get a messy pasteboard, if you're that person with the messy pasteboard that ends up going on for like ever with all your workings and scribblings, that can be trickier. So then you have to go back to Command 0, back to just 100%. Then you're kind of at a good view. Control 0 for a PC. Okay, let's bring in, I'm jumping to Illustrator, the burger menu. I'm gonna copy it. Okay, nav sandwich, mobile menu, whatever you want to call it. Okay, we're gonna bring them in. So I'm just gonna paste them in. What I want to do is add them, like I could put them in position like we did with the logo, copy it, select this one, the name of the frame, and go Shift, click this other frame, hit paste, and go on both of them, and that might be enough. Okay, I want to actually add it to this component. Okay, we made a component earlier, and the handy thing about components is if I add stuff to it, it's going to flow through all the rest of the document. So what I'm going to do is get them into position, and what we'll do is I'm on my layers panel now. Okay, so assets we were before, I'm going to go to the layers panel, and what we can do in here is we can actually find my homepage frame. There it is there, and you'll see right down the bottom, where is he? Is logo, because this is the first thing we made. It keeps getting pushed down. What I'm going to do is select it once, click, hold, and drag to the top for no good reason other than it makes it easier to see. Okay, and I want this thing called frame, which is a terrible name for it. Let's rename it. Double click it over here. Call it burger menu. You can name it even though it wasn't. We haven't converted it into a symbol. Okay, one thing you can't do. Oh, sorry, component. You can't put components inside of a component. There's my main component. We know about the little diamond. I haven't made this into a component because I'm just going to put this inside here. And how do you do it? Oh, look, you just put it inside of there. That's it. Just kind of drag it in between. So I got logo, which is the kind of like wrapper, Inside of it, there's some text. Now there's a bigger menu with a group inside of it, just the way it came in through from Illustrator. Nice. Oh yeah, and the special thing I was meant to be showing you, look, it appeared on all of them. Hey! So when you are working on that 50 page or 50 frame document, adding things to existing components just spills through. Nice and easy. Go components. Okay, we have a pretty good looking wireframe here. Okay, it's pretty simple, but what we're gonna be testing now, generally called the user flow. Like, I know I want people to sign up, so I'm gonna test that. I want people to be able to click this button, enter an email address, and then go to the confirmation page. And then probably once they're finished, go back to this homepage again. That's what I want to test. I know this is pretty simple, but this is a mini course. We're doing simple stuff. You might be testing a cancellation flow or buying a purchase, adding to cart, canceling an order, changing your delivery address, all sorts of different user tasks or user flows that you've got to try and test. Ours is email sign up. So how do we do it? Okay, we've been in this thing called design. We do most of our work in here until we're ready to get this ready for testing. Okay, and then go to this option called prototype. So click on that. A couple of things we're gonna, if you've got something selected, it's different. Okay, so if you have nothing selected in the background, just click on this gray area, prototype. What device? I'm gonna use the device that I kind of chose. Obviously there's lots of different devices you can preview on. Match the frame size that you picked at the beginning. What model phone, very important. Okay, the midnight one, the blue one, Starlight. Did anybody buy a purple one? I know one person, Victoria Borrowdale. So let's go to, I'm gonna use midnight and then stop spending so much time picking the frame of my phone. What happens now? Okay, what we do is we click on this button and you'll notice that we don't now have all of the colors and fonts and sizes and rounded corners under prototype. Okay, we don't have a whole lot going on, but you'll notice, can you see if I hover above this thing? There's this little plus on any of these corners. You can decide where you do it. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to click hold and drag that little plus. Ooh, look, a little arrow pops out. Click on and just get it close to this frame. Look, bang, boom. There you go, add your own sound effects. And what it's going to do is when this thing is tapped, navigate to the registration page. Animation, instant. So it's not going to have any animation. Ooh, let's do the submit button. So click there, comes to this page. Click on this one, comes back to, whoa. Actually, the difference between, because this is a symbol, they share the same wire. So this guy said, go to registration page. This button also says go to registration page. That's why the arrow is a bit confusing. You're like, well, they're both going the same place. You're like, actually, no, I'm gonna do an override. I'm gonna say you go here. There you go. And then people are gonna get stuck here forever. So what we're gonna do is say, when we get to this page, people can click on the logo and go back to the home page. Oh, there we go. All right, let's preview it. Now it will preview whatever page you have selected. Okay, so if we go to homepage, remember spacebar to jiggle around, click on the word homepage, then this is your little preview option. Click on it, present, you can see there's a shortcut there, click on it, and it will load it in another tab in our beautiful, beautiful iPhone 14 with the notch. I hate the notch. You a notch lover? Anyway, I think there's too much screen real estate going on. So ignore the logo disappearing into the notch, we'll fix that. Let's click on the register button. Oh, look at that, and jump to our page. We pretend to type something in. You can see there, I try to type in here and it gives me a suggestion actually, like just click that button. Move on, please. Okay, so click on submit. And thanks, we'll keep you up to date. Hooray! And when I go back to the beginning, click on the logo. Nice. What's really cool about it is, because these are just different tabs, I can drag this out and I can make it a bit smaller. Hang on, so I got an iPhone, it's pretty small and skinny. Okay, I'd probably put this over here on my other screen that you can't see. Okay, I just have it over here and I have it open the entire time I'm designing. Why? Because it's really handy. Look, I can make this browser, you have to do some like browser dragging and laying out if you're going to do it on the same screen. Okay, just have it on another screen if you've got it. Okay, over here, shift 1. Watch this. I've got this thing. I'm going to shift click both of them. Actually, I'm going to go back to design view. That's one thing that even me, like I use it all the time and I'm always like, oops, not the right thing. Prototype, design, prototype, design. Okay, we're going to be on design because I'm moving things around. I'm going to zoom in actually, and I'm going to zoom out again. I'm going to go U, hold shift and U, or actually just grab the whole logo and they should all come for the ride. And watch this. If I drag it down, look what's happening over here. Look. Oh, there's a speck of a delay, but look at that. Working in one and updating over there. Then what I like to do is kind of grab the sides of it and actually, like this is a bit caveman, but I get my phone out. I'm doing it right now. You can't see me. I get my phone out and I'm holding it up to the screen to get it to the rough kind of size. Because I want to, sometimes like when you're picking font sizes, and you're using this giant screen, you might pick a font size, and you might pick 10 or 8, and you're like, yeah, look, it reads good, because it's a ginormous phone. Okay, so you make it the same size as your screen. This is not gonna, it's gonna be different on everybody's screen. And I'm holding it up, it's about the size of my phone here. I've got a crappy Google Pixel. It's not crappy, it's just old, and the screen is all smashed. And okay, but I have that open just so I can get a sense of scale and size. Okay, and it's totally usable as I'm working. I can change things. I can say you, under prototype now, I'm going to click on this little wire here to say, actually, animation now, it's going to be, I'm going to get the next one to slide in. Okay, gives you a little preview there. But now over here, let's go back to the home one. Oh, I don't have that hooked up on that page there, so let's go through the flow. Oh, look, it pushed in. Back to the home page, watch, push in. So you can kind of just make your adjustments and then just have this open all the time. Super handy. Good work, Figma. All right, so we've done our own testing, okay? Now we want to share it with our often called stakeholders. Not a fan of that word, but it gets used a lot. Who does that include? It might include, well, it generally includes, say, the client. It might include your product manager or your studio manager. It'll include the persona, so remember Karen, or people who kind of represent kind of Karens to do the testing. Okay, we want to send it off to them. Don't forget to include your developer as well, the people who's going to be building it. It's great to get them in on the, what you're doing at the moment, even at this real primitive stage. I get so much feedback from my developer, okay, when I'm doing stuff and he's like, why are you doing it that way? You're like, oh yeah. We don't do it like that on these other pages. Why are you doing it on this page? Like, So stakeholders for your project might be small. It might be a huge amount of team. You might have lots of people that you're working with as a UX designer, or you might be a one-man band like me, and your stakeholders are often the client and the users. And don't forget your developer. So how do you get it? There's two ways of sharing. Let's look at it this way. Okay, I'm in my Figma file, Shift 1. I'm going to go up here, it's pretty clear. Sharing, okay, I'm just going to copy a link. It's pretty good. Okay, if I just copy a link, I can just email people that link. Okay, and this is what they say. Let me open up an incognito window, let's paste it in. So even if they're not a user for Figma, they're going to be tried to, Figma really wants people to come in and sign up. You can sign up with a free account, okay, and view this. You can actually just ignore that. And they can have a look, okay, and they can check out your work. If they want to add comments though, then you've got to log in or sign up, okay? But they don't have to pay, which is cool. But you can send it to them and ask for email feedback. But obviously adding comments is a lot nicer to the actual document because you actually put them on the different parts you want to talk about. So I said there's two ways. This way is kind of like a flat way. Where, just all kind of laid out nicely. If you want to send just the prototype, because they can play it, right? You might send it to your, say, your boss and say, or the client and say, hey, what do you think? And they know, and you can coach them to say, when you're ready, click on the play button and it will open it up. I'm still my client here, okay? They haven't logged in yet, okay? It still wants them to, but they can still interact with this thing, okay? Which is really cool. What you might want to do though is sometimes you're working with somebody that you know is just it's gonna baffle them all of this extra stuff. You just want to send them straight up to that preview, and you can do that by previewing it yourself. Okay, so close all that down, preview it yourself like we did before. Here it is. Okay, and there's an option up here to say share. Okay, and if you share this one, it'll just share the prototype. Okay, and I'm going to open up incognito window. It's just a private browser window that I'm logged out of, just so that I can show you what a client would see or a customer or a user. Okay, and you send this to, say, your testers, okay, to get some feedback. Okay, and they can go through and they can use the product and kind of gets rid of that first step. So you can either send the whole flat outboards or you can share from the preview or the presentation. They can just work with this. Awesome. That is how you share your amazing little wireframe that we've prototyped using Figma. What do you think? It's cool, huh? It's one of those times where, because up until now, there's been some fun things like this smart reorder, that's cool. But it's not like, maybe not enough to move from, say, something like Illustrator to do your mockups, or Photoshop, or I don't know, Microsoft Publisher. The big difference is when we get to this prototyping stage where we get to easily, quickly wire these things up. Okay, and get them to do different animations and actually make it feel like a product. That's why this is like rapid prototyping. Quickly draw some boxes, and we've drawn all our elements. What you'll find is, once you've got a bigger menu that you like, you'll use it for all your jobs. You just open up the old one, copy and paste it out. There's lots of free templates and other people's work that you can borrow. I say borrow, inverted quotes, steal from them, okay? The UI components that are shareable. So things get really fast in something like Figma. Rapid prototyping, awesome. Whoa, what are we doing here in Photoshop, you ask? Well, Figma is great. You can do a lot of things in Figma. There's always going to be a time though where you need to jump out to something like Photoshop or some sort of photo editing. Now, if you're following along, open up the exercise files and there is one called Office. Okay, so open that one up in Photoshop. Remember, there's a free link for the exercise files if you want to play along. Check it out in the description. Okay, and open it up in Photoshop. And a lot of the time, like especially stock photography is all shot at this landscape kind of, I don't know, rectangular laid down version. They know what landscape is, Dan. But when we're doing for mobile websites, which is becoming more and more common, and apps, we need this kind of portrait version. So your best friend here in Photoshop, I just want to get you, I don't know, there are going to be lots of people with Photoshop skills and I want to show like, hey, you've already got great skills in the UX design world with some of the other more, I don't know, traditional design tools. We're just adding Figma to it. And I want to show you how they connect. Okay, so we did Illustrator, let's do Photoshop. And extending this so it's kind of portrait is the world of something called content aware. There's lots of different cool content aware stuff in Photoshop, and I really want to go in and show you it all. But for now, let's just do something simple. So let's grab the crop tool. Okay, fifth tool down here, the top one there. Okay, and what we're going to do is turn on the content aware. There's lots I want to show you, but for now, let's zoom out, same shortcut, Command or Control minus. Okay, and just drag it up so it's kind of, I don't know, a third bigger-ish. It's not, you don't have to be perfect here. And with content aware on, hit Enter on your keyboard or return and watch it. Oh, look at that. More background. Magic. Photoshop is amazing for this sort of stuff, extending backgrounds, especially it's even better with things like natural backgrounds, skies, grass, sea. But for me, I just need this for my buttons and text. Okay, next thing I want to do is I'm going to do something a little bit destructive editing. Okay, if you do my course for Photoshop, you'll know non-destructive is the key. But for now, we're going for speed. So go to the adjustments panel. If you can't find it, go to Window and go to Adjustments. Okay, and we're going to go to this one called, we're going to use Levels. Actually, no, we're going to do it a slightly different way. Okay, we're going to make it just simpler for the people who don't have Photoshop skills. Okay, go up to Layer, go to Image, go to Adjustments, and we're going to go to this Levels. Slightly different, it just makes it a little bit easier for this course here. The panel will open up on a different monitor. You drag it back across so people can see it. I just want you to drag this little house here. I just want to darken it down. Explain what you're doing, Dan. I want to darken it because I want text to be easily read over the top of it. There are tricks to doing it in Figma as well, but for the moment, we're just going to drag it down somewhere in the middle-ish, okay, and click OK. So now we've got a nice dark image. I like doing it that way with the levels. There's lots of ways of doing it. I find it still retains some of the goodness of the image while still letting text go over the top. Now, what we're going to do is go back to our Move tool, and to get it into Figma, at the moment, the easiest way is just to go Select All. You can save it out as a JPEG and import it again, but let's just copy and paste it. Let's go to Select All, okay, and then go to Edit Copy and Edit Paste. Okay, so jumping back into Figma, and I'm just going to paste it straight in here. Now, it can get in the wrong place. It depends on whether that freaks you out or not. Sometimes it's easier just to hold spacebar, go to a nice safe put, and paste it in here. Then you can grab the corner and hold down Shift, okay, and you can scale it down to something more reasonable. Often images, especially stock images, will come through ginormous. I've made mine reasonable, so it didn't freak everyone out too much, but sometimes they can be really big. So just do it on the side, scale it down, then move it across. And I want to move it so it kind of, can you see, it just kind of like snaps in there eventually. And I kind of want it about there. If it doesn't go into the right place, and this is really common in Figma, if things, especially if they're large, they won't go into the right part. And you're like, get inside my homepage. Why aren't you in my homepage? Should go over here, go to your layers panel. I've got this image. It's not in this frame. It's not in my registration frame. Okay. They call them frames. I call them pages or artboards, but technically they're frames. Most people still refer to them as pages. Okay, registration, not in that one. I want it to be not in confirmation. Homepage, why aren't you in there? Watch this, here's image. I know it's him. I can turn the eyeball on and off. That's the guy. Okay, and you drag. Homepage, hooray! Now I can do one of two things. I need it to be behind everything on this page. How do I do it? I can right click it and go to center back. Or you can actually start using your layers here if you know them from other programs and just go drag down to the bottom. There you are. We're at the back. Hooray. Shift 1. And we've got a background image that we can see text over the top. And if you weren't able to make that dark background because you're like, I don't have Photoshop or I don't know how to use it yet, check out your exercise files. There's a catch-up file in there just saying, I've made one that's already dark. You can use that one. Import it, or just drag it in and start using this one. If you do want to go further with Photoshop as well, just so you know, I've got a Photoshop Essentials and an Advanced course. And I promise you, even if you're a dabbler in Photoshop and all reasonably good, there is some amazing stuff that I bet you don't know about it. Check out the link for my courses in the description. Cross-sell. The other thing I want to point out here as well is that we've done our testing and we have now moved into the high fidelity mockup. Okay, so we did our testing, it's come back, we've made some changes if we need to on that first wireframe. But that's kind of as far as we can go with that first wireframe mockup. Now we need to start adding a lot of the things like the right fonts and the right colors and the right messaging, the right imagery, and that stage is called hi-fi or high fidelity, the pretty version. So we've added a background image to get started. Next, let's look at using some corporate colors or some brand colors. So you might have brand colors listed in a manual in your bottom drawer of your office that you haven't opened for years. Okay, and it might have all the different brand guidelines. You might be the person who knows their numbers off by heart. For me, I work on lots of different clients, so there's a lot of times where I'll pull it from other documents. So like something like Illustrator, most of this software is the same. InDesign, After Effects. Let's say I want this, I'm going to call it watermelon, peach. I don't know, you have a better name for it. I'm going to click on fill, and what I'm looking for is often the RGB number is more easily represented as the hexadecimal number. Same. It's just a different way of doing it. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to switch to this like little color mixer, and I'm not going to be on CMYK. I want to switch it up here to RGB. You can type in your RGBs or grab that. That is representative of those numbers, and I find them easier to remember or at least copy. Okay, so that's it. FC 7F4E. I did it. Okay, so I'm going to copy it and jump into Figma, and I'm going to say I want you to be that color. So I'm going to go to design, not in prototype because everything was disappeared. Under fill, I'm just going to see it says here the hex number. There it is. I'm going to click on it. It doesn't really do anything until I kind of like click out here. Here you go. It's the right color. And the cool thing about it is once you put it into Figma, it's pretty clever. Watch this. If I go to, I don't know, the text here, and I want it to be the same color, I don't have to keep pasting it. Watch. It'll just appear in my document colors. Here's that document color. It's not what I wanted. If I want to color the text, I've got to kind of double click it, okay, or triple click it because it's a, what is it? It's a component. Then go to fill, and there's my document color. Nice. The other thing I find easy is just to copy and paste stuff into it. It's pretty clever, especially as vector. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, copy it, these little group here, or actually I only need these two now, so I'm going to copy them. I don't really want the rectangles, but if I paste these in, okay, to here, watch. Oh, I've picked a green that's very similar. Did I actually go and get that? Or did I just accidentally give it the right color? So what's that? 04D. What is this one? No, just very close. Let's have a look, this slate color here then. So let's see if I've got that slate color. Let's change this one. So there is that slate color. Hello. No, it's not. There it is there. There's the slate color. So all my colors just come across. Easy. On brand. It's the right colors. What I'm going to do is color these backgrounds. So the background of these, what are they called? These are called frames, but we also call them pages. If you click anywhere in here, not on the text, because this will get all filled up, make sure you're on design, click anywhere that's like nothingness in here. Okay, look, there's the background color. I'm going to say, actually, I want you to be that slate color. Nope, that's the background of the whole thing. Let's click on the actual frame over here. So what we got? This is the registration page. Yeah, Dan knows what he's doing. Okay, and there's the fill color of the background. You kind of select it like a whole rectangle. Sorry, I get confused between Figma and XD. They're very similar programs, and I use them kind of interchangeably. Sometimes I get a little bit lost. There you go. Okay, so let's go to fill. So I've selected it like a rectangle, okay? The registration page, okay, which is my frame. It's just a rectangle. And now I can say you are that dark slate color, and you, my friend, okay, are going to be with confirmation. There it is there. And I'm going to say you have a fill of, I'm going to use that color there. Just to bring in our brand colors, I'm going to quickly, using fast forward mode, go and switch these, okay, because they're all the close but wrong colors. So you wait there. Cool. So first of all, whatever you do, don't pick you know, a wireframe color really close, but not the same as the brown color that you plan on using later. The other thing to note is that I only had to update this once. Okay, remember this button here? Remember one of the perks of being a component is when I select it and I change the color. Okay, let's double click it. No, not the text. Okay, to the edge of it. You see there, we really want to select the text. You got to kind of like click in the background. So I want this. Remember, we can change this and they both change. Okay, here we go. And then I found it easier to actually just type or paste the hexadecimal number in rather than picking it down here because they were both so close. And after a while, what you'll see is, can you see there's only one green there now? That means it's showing me that in this document, only these colors exist. So there's only one green now, which means good, I've only got one green. There are better ways of doing like global styles. And again, that's more for the big course, but for the moment, we're making it work. Command 0 to 100%. There we go. We've got some on-brand colors. All right, let's go and update the fonts now to our high fidelity one. The brand might already have one, so you have to go pick one as a designer. Again, kind of too deep for this course, but a nice little hack is to go and Google something like this. Like Google Fonts is basically what Figma uses for its fonts. Okay, so if you do Google font pairing, you will, I just switch it to images and you just have a little search through. So let's just pick something, quicksand and quicksand. Oh. When I say pick real quickly, I spend ages trying to find a cool, friendly. Let's do this. All right, that one. Rubik and Overpass. Let's see if we got it. Rubik. Ooh, I like it. I'm going to use off-white. And let's try Overpass in here. Ooh, I like it. All right, that's enough for now. Not sure how I'm feeling about Rubik in my kind of fonts here, but I'm definitely liking Overpass. New favorite font. All right, let's add some more high fidelity-ness. I'm going to switch out this graphic and get rid of that little icon there because this little graphic down here, I'm going to group it, Command G, Control G on a PC. It's going to be my like little hero graphic there. And I want to fill these with images. So to do it, you keep clicking them until you've actually got it selected and you can see the fill. There it is, there's that green. You can click on this and you can go to solid and we can say, instead of solid color, we're going to want to fill it with an image, please. What image? Pet friendly. I'll choose image, go to exercise files. I got a couple of them. Facilities 3, okay, is my pet friendly guy. Hello, it's got a bow tie. Bottomless coffee, I'll close that. Double click, find the green, image, choose image, and bottomless coffee is number 1. I moved these around. They were in order, I promise. But we played around with that smart selection and reordered them around. Close that down, double click, you. You might have to rewind that one if we're going too fast there. Find the color, change it from solid, pick an image, click in this bit here, which is not super intuitive in my opinion, but hey, here we go. More high fidelity-ness. I'm going to tidy up this logo, you wait there. All right, colors, images, shift, oh no, yeah, shift 1, see everything. Don't need these now, go away, more shift 1, if it's exactly the same. All right, next step. And the next step is a big one. It's this, we're gonna learn how to make a micro interaction. What is a micro interaction, you ask? Watch this, click this. Look at that, it's a little bit of animation. And it's not just there for like pretty sake. It is there because it's gonna help communicate something. The animation shows that the same button actually toggles from being the burger menu to actually closing the menu. Now, in all honesty, we're going to be jumping a little bit ahead in terms of like our capabilities now, because I want to get you excited by Figma. We've done lots of stuff and we've kind of kept up to speed. I'll try and keep you along here, don't worry. But if you do get to the end of this part and you're like, oh, he left out a lot. It's because there's a lot to get to this point. But I also want to show you some of the awesome stuff. This could be the awesomest animation ever. I love it. It's a rite of passage as being a UX designer. Okay, you've got to make one of these and try and squeeze it into a job. Like learning the lens flare in Photoshop or drop shadows or something like that where you're like, oh, everything needs a drop shadow. every project needs one of these. So let's make it. Okay, let's do it on one of the pages. I'm going to do mine on my registration page here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this burger menu. I'm going to kind of smoosh it apart. So basically I want a copy of it. I'm going to grab you, copy. I'm going to click on this artboard here, paste it. It went back to the old artboard. I'm going to put it here. The reason I don't want, I'm not going to use this version. I'm just going to right click it. Okay, and there's a way to say ungroup. Okay, that was weird. Did you see the little blue box that didn't have text in it before? That was meant to have, I was like, that should have something in it. I couldn't remember what it was. There are measurements in there. Yeah, I just refreshed my page. Figma works in the browser. Normally it's pretty solid. There must have been an update. I've had this browser open for a long time over the weekend. You don't know that because the videos just carry on. But I had to pause for the weekend and it was just open and yeah. Anyway, if there's anything screwy happen, hit refresh on the browser. We're back. So I've ungrouped it. Okay, ungrouped it. So I've got rid of it being what's called a component. Okay, and what I would like to do is turn it back into a component. Okay, so it was kind of a component before. Now I'm going to say you are a component. Okay, and I'm going to do something a little bit extra. Okay, this one here, we're going to add a variant of this component. Okay, and what we're going to do is this top one's going to be the starting of our animation and this one's going to be the ending. What happens with the ending, this one here, I want the middle to go away. Remember from that first animation, we don't want to delete it because if we delete it from the first one, it freaks out. Okay, it needs to see them in both of them. Okay, so what we need to do is this one here is actually just say opacity of fill down to 0. Just typed in 0. So it's still kind of there, but you just can't see it. Perfect. And this one here, I want to rotate around. Okay, so I'm going to just hover to the corners. You can see that's the scale. That is the rotation. Oh, let's just type it in, Dan. I've typed in, what have I typed in? 45 degrees? Yep. And this one here is going to be negative 45. Here we go. Line them both up. So I'm going to hold shift, click both of them, and I'm going to say align you, align centers. So I'm just, can you see horizontal centers and vertical centers? So now it's kind of lined up. Nice. Now, is it going to work? It is not. Let's play it, preview. Why is he showing us the thing that doesn't work? Because now this kind of special component here, this is like just a working version of it. Okay, it's a variant. So we don't actually use this in the document. It's kind of like a working doc. Okay, and we can say, we can put it on its own page for like working documents or stick it down there. What we really want now is we want to find it in our assets panel. We've given it a terrible name. I don't think we gave it a name at all. Group 12. That's okay. We're going to drag it out now. So that's the kind of working version of it with the two variants. This is the thing we'll use. And guess what? It still won't really work. Let's have a look at our preview. Let's click it. Yeah, it's not working. Okay, so what do we do for the next step? Is back to this working version. Let's get him over here. Okay, we need to say this top one. Okay, when this top one is clicked, go to this bottom one. And we use that prototype like we did earlier. If it's feeling a little overwhelming, it should be. We're kind of jumping ahead in the course a bit or in our Figma knowledge, but it's fun. So this one, when it's clicked, it's going to go, same thing, I'm going to grab that little dot and say go to here. So on tap, change to this variant, okay, of my variant 2, which is my cross. Instantly, now let's do smart animate. That does the little animation stuff. We don't actually have to do anything. Figma is amazing at just doing it. Cool, let's test that now, and it's going to kind of partially work. Ready? Oh, it kind of half worked, but it won't go back. So back here, we'll say, so when that's clicked, go to this one. When this one is clicked, okay, you go back up there. And it should remember things like smart animate from the last thing you did. Now we are ready. Ready? 3, 2, 1, bam, bam. I want that little dot to go away. Look how cool it is. The editor will zoom in because he knows I'm very excited by this animation. I've done it a million times with a million students, but look how nice it is. That's the cool thing about Figma and its animation. If you came from Flashland or Adobe Animate, a lot of the easing is added, all that nice kind of smooth easing is added afterwards, whereas this is just, or After Effects or Premiere Pro, it's all added afterwards, whereas Figma adds it for you because it looks cool. All right, so that is a micro interaction. It is just a little thing to help us know, little bit of draw our attention and help us know what we've actually done. We've clicked it, and look, now it's a little red cross. Oh, now it's a little cross that we can use to close the same little menu. You'd use it up here, okay, where you had your navigation popping out. Very cool. All right, so we've got a little bit of animation. We've got our kind of high fidelity mockup kind of mocked up, not complete, but hopefully a good overview of kind of getting things onto that page. Let's look at now, we've got, say, testing done again. Okay, client's happy with it. We need to get it to our engineer or our developer. Actually, what we might do is just send it to the client as not a link. It's handy sometimes just to go to up to this Figma F here and go to File. There's an Export Frames to PDF. And it's just going to make one. I'm going to stick mine. I'm going to stick mine in here. Okay, and we have a PDF. Okay, and it's just the simple pages and just maybe a nice, easy way of sharing via email. Next up, we want to share it with our developer, okay, or our engineering team, whoever it's going to maybe build this website. Maybe it's you. How do you get the images out? There is a simple way. The simple way is, let's click on this, say this graphic here that I want out. What I need to make sure is, actually I've clicked on that already. So down here, it'll look like this. Okay, I have to scroll to the bottom of this little panel. I've got it selected. I can say I want this exported. What kind of export do I want? Maybe you want a PNG. I want an SVG, scalable vector graphic, because I know that's best for my intentions here. But if you're like, I've never used one of those, I want a PNG. You can do that. You can get a JPEG, a PDF, anything you like. What size do you need it to be? There you go. Okay, and you just click export. And here you go. I'm going to give it a better name. Can you see if you're naming your layers like a good UX designer, which I am clearly not, Group D. If you name it there, it'll pull the name and save you time here. This is going to be my leaf. Okay, and my little export folder there. Let's have a look, show and finder. Unsurprisingly, there we go, we have a leaf. There it is, JPEG, terrible. Should be a PNG or an SVG, but you get the idea. Okay, so anything that you want to be exported, if I don't mark these as exportable, they won't get exported. Okay, so I'm going to say you are exportable as a JPEG, okay, and I can export them. Now, it gets even cleverer. So that might be it. You send them the PDF with the images and leave them to it. What's handier working with an engineer is the same share option that we did earlier, where we were sharing with, say, user testing and with our stakeholders. Let's go to share. You probably just want them to, instead of edit, to view, mainly because a developer's probably not spending a whole lot of time in Figma. You might be a developer yourself watching this. And if you haven't used Figma before, if you give them editing or give yourself editing abilities, it can be maybe too many options. You only need view and you send them the email. I'm just going to copy the link and open it in another window for us. New window, paste it in. All right, I'm pretending to be the developer now. So what ends up happening is you'll need to coach them a tiny bit, okay? What they want is not design, not prototype, they want inspect. That's the thing they want. And the cool thing about it is that they can do things like click on the home page, know the height and width. You don't have to write a document explaining it all. They know the background color. Click on this one. There's the background color that we picked before. They can just click it. Can you see it says copy to clipboard? It's a great way for them to build out their app or website. Okay, if I go back to kind of like click on the background, you can see because this is going to be a website, okay, a mobile website, we're going to use CSS. But if they were using iOS, okay, so Apple app or an Android app, they could use this. You can see here, if I click on registration, it's giving me different, like they don't use pixels, okay, they use DP. So I can give them the kinds of properties that they need. So I'm going to click off in the background and switch it to CSS. It's really cool. They can work around and go, all right, here's this button here. And you can see it actually, if I just click on it, I don't need to do anything. But if I'm in inspect, look, it says it's this height by this width. Okay, it is got this much padding around the outside. If I double click this text on the inside, it gives me cool things like 15 pixels, top, left, and right, but not the bottom. It's because this font is a strange one. I have to kind of move it up a little bit. But it gives them all those sort of measurements that you don't have to go out and label. It's brilliant. So colors, measurements are all just in there. Let's have a look. Say this text here. Can you see it tells them the font, what's weight we're using, the size, line height, random Dan, 33.818. And what's really handy as well is I used to have to, when I was handing over documents like this, maybe done in Photoshop or Illustrator, I had to hand over a text document, well, the text copied out of it. Okay, but look at this. There's a text copied to the clipboard. Okay, and they just paste it into their code. It gets more complicated with the CSS down the bottom here. Okay, there's two options here. It can be like just the actual class names and their answer, the class names and the values. But over here, there's an option to kind of looking at it differently. Depends on what they want to do. So you might have to coach them through having a look under inspect to get the stuff they want. Let's say this text here, they're probably not going to want the width and the height. They're not going to just copy this verbatim and paste it into CSS, but there might be stuff that is useful, okay? Font family rubric, especially if you're coding it yourself. Like if you're new to coding and you want to get into it, check out my web essentials, okay, where we do HTML and CSS. And it's handy for things like, you're like, let's go into here. You're like, I've double clicked on it. It tells me the border, which is awesome. Also tells me the border radius. Okay, there it is there. And you might not know the syntax for what border hyphen radius is, but now you do. You can just copy and paste that straight in your code. So all right, that is getting it out to your developer and kind of wrapping us up now. Let's actually jump out to the real life camera and we'll wrap up. All right, my friend, that is where we're gonna end this mini course. I hope we got close to my goal of demystifying a little bit of the UX design process and also showing you how Figma works a little bit. I hope you got value out of that. Next steps for you if you wanna continue along with me in your UX and Figma journey. I've got a full course for Figma. There's only so much we can cover in this kind of like mini intro course. I hope I've got you excited enough to do the full course. Okay, there'll be a link in the description for that. What I'll do is I'll show you on screen here. This is what we cover in the full Figma Essentials course. That is an advanced course as well. Okay, and we just go into things a lot more in depth. Okay, build some really cool projects together, stuff for your portfolio. You're gonna have unique stuff for your portfolio. You're gonna have a really good understanding after the essentials and after the advanced. You're gonna be an expert Figma user and you'll have a really good grasp of the UX design process. And if you sign up for the course, you also get access to complete and get a certificate and a merit certificate as well. That same subscription gets you Ask the Experts access. So it means that you get priority answering of your questions if you have got anything throughout the course. There's an exclusive podcast there on the website as well for members only, where I talk to and interview UX designers amongst other creative professionals. And one of the big perks is that we do design challenges. Okay, so there'll be regular UI and UX design challenges because it's hard if you don't have clients and you don't have feedback from other creative professionals. It's hard to kind of build those skills. So as part of signing up for the course, you get access to those design challenges as well. Oh, and most important is these little badges here. You can earn those too. And lastly, that same price for the XD course gets you access to all my courses. Okay, so I've got a Figma one, I've got a Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, Premiere Pro, Lightroom. Have I said any of those twice? I don't think so. But there's an essentials and an advanced for all of those things. So come join me at Bring Your Own Laptop, join the community, other people on the same journey doing similar stuff, sharing our little journey together. But for now, that is it. And hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye. Link in the description.